Hey everybody, this is Ardwulf with another episode of Ardwulf Presents. I am coming to you this time from Rift. This is a game that we had touched on before, and this video is hopefully going to be sort of brief, and I'm going to wrap up my thoughts on Rift. I have pretty much no specific concrete complaints about this game. Everything is pretty polished. All the mechanisms work quite well. There are no catastrophic. There's been a couple little annoyances. The pet pathing and mob pathing, for that matter, is imperfect. The slop timer, which I had praised in the last video, actually has begun to annoy me. I think it's just a little too tight. But you know, that's not like a critical flaw. I've noticed performance, relatively minor performance issues if I turn anti-aliasing all the way up. Again, not a huge flaw. I'm playing it on pretty high settings right now with pretty much everything turned up except that. And that's on like medium settings. And I'm not having any particularly significant problems. I will say that this video, I have manfully stuck with it. I'm now level 23, close to halfway to level 24. And I am in the Stonefield zone, which is the second zone for Defiant characters. Not a hugely... I mean, it's different terrain from Free March, which is the first zone. It's not radically different by any possible definition. It's pretty much the same type of content. It's possible that that changes at some point. You know, I'm not sure what this edifice is right here. It's possible that that does change at some point. I don't know what this thing is or does or what. It's just a thing, I guess. I guess that's kind of nice, but that kind of touches on why I'm not going to stick with this game. I didn't think I was going to. Like I said in the previous video, I had played Rift in the beta. And been pretty happy with it, but ended up not buying it because I just felt that there was some element missing. It would be easy for me to call that a sandbox element, but I think that's a little bit of a simplification in this particular case. There is, I mean, this is a very by-the-numbers game. If you understand how to play, if you have played World of Warcraft, Rift really doesn't have a whole lot new to teach you. The dynamic events are certainly cool. I like them. I have had fun doing some. But there's not really anything remarkable here. I wonder if these are the mobs I need to kill. They are. Very good. And that one's not. So I'm just running around doing quests here in Stonefield. It's a reasonably engaging zone. The game doesn't really do anything particularly remarkable with quests or particularly interesting. I think it feels that it doesn't have to because it has the dynamic events. And from what I understand, the group content in the form of dungeons and such is pretty good. So that aside, I don't think that's necessarily a particular selling point because, to be honest about it, most MMOs shine in group format play and not in solo format play, with the possible exception of World of Warcraft, where you can pretty much solo the whole game or die. Yeah, that's great. That'll be alright. None of these mobs are terribly tough. Lack of challenge is not really the problem. I've actually done my fair share of dying in this game, primarily in the context of Rift events. Where sometimes the mobs will spawn very close together and you'll have a hard time peeling them off for single pulls. It's relatively easy to get killed a lot doing that. And I have, particularly in this zone as opposed to the first zone. We have a thing there. I don't know what that is. It's also a contribution to... Looks like I'm going to kill a lot of these things because the drop rate's not 100%. It's not 0, but it's not 100%. I feel like there's something, I don't want this to be, as I discussed on the blog the other day, I don't want this to be Ardwulf hates Rift and is just ripping on it. but I feel like there's something missing, which one might call a sandbox element. But really, it's that the game is kind of feature light, which is it's just weird. I mean, it certainly hits all the high points that you would want. It lacks. It's got an open world that manages to not particularly feel open because the content is very directed. It's linear content. It's less about the world not having artificial borders inside it than it is about this guy's kind of tough. Than it is about the content being linear, so that the zones don't feel open, even though they might physically be open. Something else I might as well mention is that about 10 minutes after I had wrapped the previous video, Tryon made an announcement that there was going to be a Rift expansion. The expansion is called Storm Legion. There has been no official announcement of a release date, but it is expected to hit this year, and it will include 4 new souls, 10 new levels, and something called Dimensions, which is sounding like, and then Tryon has confirmed this, it's going to be their take on housing. That sounds interesting, and most interestingly, it is going to add 2 whole new continents to the game, which is going to basically almost triple the size of the world. Now, I think they're holding something back. I think there's something more up their sleeve, because there's not really any reason to add that much terrain unless there is some kind of new content ahead that has a lot of space as a requirement for it. There's only 10 new levels, so it's not like they're adding 30 levels or anything like that that would seem to demand such a huge expansion of the world. So I think we're going to hear more about that as time goes on. Certainly, it is a very ambitious-sounding expansion, and as that expansion gets closer and we start to hear more and more about it, that's one of the events that might draw me back into Rift. As I may have mentioned before, Tryon has been extremely proactive in offering win-back periods, to win-back weekends, for example, to get people who have left back playing again. I will surely step back into this game at some point. I had kind of hoped to reach level 27 or 28 so that I could be filming this follow-up video in the 3rd zone instead of the 2nd one. But at this point, I just don't feel like I can endure another 5 levels of this, 4 levels now actually, in order to do that. I just have other things that I would rather be playing that I find more interesting. In particular, the games that are on my palette are Fallen Earth, EverQuest 2, and Vanguard, all of which are not necessarily on paper more feature-rich than Rift are, but they're all considerably deeper games. On EverQuest 2 in particular, it has a kind of industry-leading feature set, and is a very mature game that has become greatly enhanced over its lifespan. And it's if you'll recall, it's about as old as World of Warcraft is. These guys do not drop the doodads, nor does that guy. I'm looking for the miners here. What's that objective? Kill Overseer. What's his name? So is that in the mine? I'm thinking it's in the mine, actually. In fact, I'm thinking I may have already killed this dude, which is a little annoying. Kind of happens all the time in this game. Where there be a sort of named guy, and the named guys out in the world really aren't any tougher than anybody else. So you just go ahead and kill him, and then the next round of quests you get a quest to kill him. Something that kind of happens in any quest-based game. There's a rather low novelty rate in the quests in this game. That's another dude. There are a lot more novel quests and creative things done with questing in a game like Vanguard or in Lotro, for that matter. Lotro actually does some very traditional quest structure, but it does things as creative as you can probably do with those traditional quests. Looking for this dude. I wonder if he's up top. Oh, what's this? This is interesting. Deep Strike Mines. So this is an instance. This is a group instance, if I'm not mistaken. And I'll go in and grab the quest and then just leave.
Make our own reality. Accept no truth. You cannot.
Sun on your face, wind on your back. There's no better life.
Check out the mobs. 24 elite.
When this is done, you think they'll sing songs about us?
Hooray. Let's do some quest log management here before I wrap up. I'd like to finish a couple of these quests. We got that in the mines. We got... let's look. These are all Deep Strike mines, so we actually want to turn off tracking here. So the only one we had was actually these. These are rift quests to kill rifts and or footholds from guardians. So what's that dude? I think he must be up top. I don't know how to even get up top. The game I really want to be playing right now is EverQuest 2 with some Vanguard on the side. I'm not really going to make any bones about that. It's a much richer game than this. There's a heritage shared between the two games. Scott Hartzman, who is the head honcho of development at Tryon, used to be the lead developer in EverQuest 2. Yeah, I think I can say that pretty much all the EverQuest 2 players were sad to see him go. Although I don't think Dave Jorgensen or however he pronounces it. I heard him say it on a video the other day. And that's something else we're going to be talking about in a future episode. Is EQ2's new feature. I mean, EQ2's at the point where they're offering new features that are downright arcane because the game has such a rich existing feature set. Not really including PvP if you're into that. It's got kind of half-baked PvP. Rift has better PvP, but I'm not that crazy of a PvP player, to be honest about it. I like doing it from time to time. I like the kind of format that allows it without necessarily having player buy-in, in fact, like you have in EVE Online, for example. The PvP is not 100% consensual. You're always at risk from it. EVE is another good example of a game that, I'm not playing it right now, but I'll get back to it at some point. And I've left that game more times than most people have probably started playing MMOs in the first place. It was actually my first MMO. But this video is about Rift, and not about EVE Online or EverQuest 2 or any of the other games. I've just pretty much at the end of my rope with Rift. It's a good game. The design is excellent. In some places, I would even say it's airtight. People are complaining, but MMO players, that's what they do. Is they play MMO games and they complain. So I don't take a lot of those criticisms very seriously. This is an extremely solid game by any practical measure. I have the vaguest idea where I'm going here. I don't think that's where I want to go. It looks like I'm going that way anyway, because the guys are jumping on me. You see we got a rift over here in the background. I've closed a bunch of them here in Stonefield, and of course, then I got a quest to close rifts in Stonefield. So the rifts, population is kind of an issue. The centerpiece of this game is the dynamic rift events. And the population in these leveling zones, particularly the hours I play at, which are admittedly weird hours, are not, the population's not that high. So frequently, and earlier today actually, when the first time I tried to film this video, was actually one of the examples of when there were players around and I was able to cooperate with people to do a Rift event, and it was quite a bit of fun. But unfortunately for leveling content, for a lot of people that's not going to be the case anymore. Maybe if you come back during a win-back weekend, it'll be different for people that never hit the level cap. There's some neat things, by the way, that happen when you hit the level cap that I won't spoil if you do give Rift a try and have a little more patience with it than I do. But let's just say some special things happen when you hit the level cap. And that's cool. I mean, I like it that the game has a pretty well done questing. Certainly there's plenty of content. I wouldn't say that there's any kind of shortage. There's also instances that I really haven't done anything with, and what are called instant adventures, which sound to me like they're something like Lotro skirmishes, but I haven't tried any of those either. In fact, I think you can go to one of these. I'm not the required level to do instant adventures, apparently. So, hooray!
It's my
Maybe level 25 is where that unlocks. So let's grab this quest, and you can see that I grabbed this quest too. I've got probably a little under 3 weeks left of time on Rift, and I'm pretty much where I knew I would be after playing it for a week and a half, which is about how long I've been playing it this time around, which is that I'd be tired of it. And I'm tired of it. It's just not interesting enough. It's not distinct enough. As I mentioned on the blog, they have very well done lore in this game. It's very well developed, and the lore's pretty good, but it's a little too obscure to be totally familiar so that you can instantly buy into it like you can with, say, EverQuest. And it's not quite novel enough to be really novel, and therefore really interesting in its own right. So I have a little bit of a design preference issue with that. So like I said, just kind of generally, I've had my fill of Rift for the time being. So I'm going to wrap this video up here in Stonefield and probably wrap up my Rift experience at this point. Maybe in a week I'll try and dip my toes into it again, but I don't think so. I've got other stuff to play and other videos to bring you. So on that subject, down in the notes below you will find a link to my website at ardwulfslair.wordpress.com. There you will find a host of commentary on MMORPGs and video games in general, but mostly MMORPGs and online RPGs. There are also links to my sites on Facebook, Twitter, and Google+, so you will be able to add those to your social networking whatever, and by all means subscribe to the YouTube channel. We have plenty more content coming, and there will be a major announcement made on the blog soon about a new show that I have in the planning stages right now, so stay tuned for that as well. In the meantime, I hope you've enjoyed watching this Rift wrap-up, and I hope you will tune in for our next video coming soon. Thanks for watching.